Hello again, everyone, and welcome to a very special 1 hour edition of From the Farm. I'm Stu Ellis. Certainly happy to be here as part of the WCIA 3 Farm Department. You're going to see a lot of new technology in agriculture today. The interesting part, it all comes from the University of Illinois Research Park. A lot of new startup companies introduce their products, and we're going to give you a great sample of what they had in mind after a recent introduction here the other day. We're going to start out with Ernest Ag. It provides microbes that are put on seed treatments, and really they feed the little creatures in your soil. It's providing nutrients for crop growing. It's sort of happy workers, happy soil, bigger yield. And Eddie Maya is the CEO of that company. What's Ernest Agriculture all about?
We found a way to build teams of bacteria that we deliver via seed treatment to improve farm success. Specifically, we help with nutrient use efficiency, plant resilience, and disease suppression.
It's a seed treatment. A lot of people, a lot of farmers are using them. They swear by them. So you ought to have something pretty friendly for a farmer to say, yeah, put some on my soybean seed.
Yeah, we have heard different stories about biologicals. I think the biggest problem right now with biologicals is consistency. So it works one year, it doesn't work another year, or some farmers are not seeing results. And we think, and we believe from our data, is that the approach that biologicals have been taking is not the best approach. And the way I like to explain it is you got your natural products, you got your single bacteria, you got your bacteria systems where we play, and then you got your bacteria stews. In the bacteria systems is where we focus on building those teams. So each one has different kind of pros and cons. So you got your single bacteria, they would usually focus on one benefit and have one bacteria, but if you put that bacteria in New York, it'll probably work well. But you put the same bacteria, let's say in Tennessee, it's probably not going to work as well. And also, you have a problem with trying to outcompete the native bacteria that already live in the farm. So if you put one in there, it's going to get murdered. So by building a team of bacteria that work well together, you're basically putting like a good football team together and putting them out there to really survive in the new environment and support the plant. So we don't focus on one benefit, we focus on multiple benefits. So we basically give the plant a buffet of benefits to choose from. So the plant's able to decide which bacteria it wants to work with. So is it need help with nutrients? So it'll recruit the bacteria that's good for nutrients. Does it need resilience help? It'll recruit those bacteria. Or does it need disease? It'll recruit those bacteria from our product.
Okay. You said that some bacteria will work well in different soils. We've got a wide variety across the Corn Belt. How does one farmer know that he's going to get the right ones, or do you make a prescription of you need this particular team of bacteria on your soybean seed because you are in central Illinois, for example?
So before we sell to any farmer, we test in the state that the farmer's in before, so with third-party testing, to make sure it works in that area. This year we're doing the testing on various soils to see where it really performs the best. But from what we've seen in the past 2 years, we've done a lot of testing across, I think last year we had across 8 states. This year we're on 14 states. And consistently we see a 6% yield increase for soybean. So our first product is for soybean. We'll be releasing corn next year. And this year we're really testing different soil types. So we have a farmer in Iowa that has 9 different soil types across 4 different locations. And so we pulled plant samples, soil samples from each of those different soil types to analyze where it's actually really doing really well. We have found, though, that in really bad soils, like in Tennessee, we've seen 15% yield increase.
Okay. But for a farmer to really benefit from the product, you would take a soil test from each of his types of soil on his farms that he's going to be planting on there.
Well, we can look at his soil maps,
Okay.
and let him know if it's going to work, what he can expect from our product.
And then you provide him the combination of microbes that are going to work well on this field and a different one on another field?
Well, no, we prescribe one combination per crop type. So we, maybe down the line, we will have more ability to prescribe per field.
Okay.
But the logistical in that and it's super complicated.
tough?
Yeah, it'll be tough.
Okay.
So we have found that we do need a special combination for each crop type. So like soybean needs something different than a corn plant would need.
Why do they need, if they're in the same soil, why do they need a different combination?
Yeah, so like corn needs a lot of nitrogen help, a lot of, so we need to have more bacteria in that combination that helps with nitrogen when it comes to corn, for example. That's just one benefit. Versus soybean doesn't need as much nitrogen, but it does need help, but they both do need help with disease and resilience. So each crop extrudes sugars, and so the bacteria feed off those sugars. So we find the bacteria that work well with those sugars that the plant extrudes.
How does a farmer access your product? Can he get it from ag retailers? You have to go to your website and order it?
You can go to our website, order it. We are starting to build our retailer list. But for the most part, yeah, you can reach out to us. The next year we'll be expanding. On our website, we'll keep it active to see which distributors they can come. But right now, we have a lot of farmers already trying in Iowa, Illinois, Tennessee. Those are the 3 states that we're really active in.
Biologicals certainly very important and of interest to a lot of farmers. But another thing that's of interest is phosphate and phosphate prices. And right now, the price of phosphate is the most expensive it's ever been compared to the price of corn. And that's a critical issue for the folks at Ostera. They have created an economical alternative to phosphate called Crystal Green. And National Sales Manager Jim Sled talks about Crystal Green.
So Ostara is a company based out of St. Louis that we specialize in phosphorus fertilizers. So we would say that we are the leaders in the in plant available phosphorus nutrition.
Farmers are really interested in phosphate right now,
Yes.
and there's a lot of problems. How are you helping to solve the problem?
Well, so for ours, basically it is 95+% plant available. So there is no leaching with our product. There is no runoff. There's no tie up in the soil. So it takes the organic acids that the plant releases when it needs nutrients. That is the only thing that breaks down our product. And so not only is it providing a lot more phosphorus available for the plant, but we're also not polluting waterways either by that runoff or the leaching.
Phosphate already has to be in the soil then for your product to work.
Yes, so it doesn't have to be in the soil, no-till. It will work on no-till, but you can band it in as well. But basically the plant will put off acid, and then even in no-till, mycorrhizae will, little fingers will come up and pull it into the soil, into the plant that is needed. We're not feeding the soil, we're feeding the crop.
Okay. So how do we know that it's getting fed then?
So you will start seeing throughout the season, especially, mid to late season, overall your plant health will be a lot healthier, will produce more yield. You're not going to take a normal soil test and be able to see, but there is ways of doing like Haney test or tissue sampling that you'll be able to see response. Also, I think the really big response that you'll see is you're starting to see more soil DNA testing. And with our product, we become really high in that microbial growth rate as well as that bacterial diversity because there is no salt in our product that's killing the bacteria or the fungi.
All right. Now, is what your product, is that going to reduce a farmer's overall need to apply more phosphate?
Absolutely. So, let's say if a farmer is applying at 150 pounds an acre, we would say to apply at 105 pounds an acre. So a 30% reduction, all the way up to, we have some people that are doing a 50% reduction, but 30% reduction, so that is less cost per acre. And overall, you're getting triple the amount of plant availability of phosphorus.
Some of that rock phosphate that Grandpa put on might be used in this then.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a complete different reaction of what we're dealing with, and you know, you talk about that pea pull. You know, there's no real way of measuring what we've always been banking for, but you know, this has the, you know, with Crystal Green, this product is going to be available right away for your plants.
So, okay, is the product on the market now?
It is on the market, yes. So we're based out of St. Louis. That's where our plant is, and we can ship by rail car, by truck. We even have barges available.
Farmers may not need a barge or a rail car. Where is your product available with regular nutrient dealers?
Yeah, so the struggle that we deal with, or the challenge that we face, is going to be storage, you know, whether it's on-farm storage or usually with retail. And so our go-to-market strategy right now has been going to retailers because they're typically the ones that are applying, you know, but that's where you'd be able to get the product from.
That's Crystal Green, so check that out if you've got a phosphate issue, particularly one either availability or pricing. We'll be right back. And welcome back to you. I'm Stu Ellis. This is a special hour-long edition of From the Farm. We pick up again with DigiFarms. DigiFarms is a digital platform for agronomic research and crop production. And a very exciting fellow who has developed this, he's the CEO of the company, Alex Chequin. He's got some interesting descriptions of what his company does in this short video.
So DigiFarms is a digital platform that helps farmers, agronomists, agri-retailers, co-ops. The idea is really helping in decision making. So we have proprietary data from more than 50 years of field and greenhouse trials, and we provide recommendations and orientations through actionable insights.
What kind of farm, are we talking about corn and bean farmers then?
Yeah, corn, beans, wheat.
And what recommendations are you giving? This is not agronomic, it's more business.
Okay, it's all agronomic recommendations, okay? So we have a strong agronomic background. The system was created since 2015. We used at that time 12 years of proprietary data. And since then, we've been generating data from proprietary field trials and greenhouse trials. So we really help farmers, agronomists, and our clients to identify what is the best seed variety to be planted, when they should be planting, what are the best products to be used, what are the doses and tank mixes and everything. And this is when they are planning the season, but after they plant, they put the seed on the ground, things are changing, and DigiFarms is updating those points so they can understand how to anticipate or why anticipate a spray, mainly considering a preventive and predictive way, like disease, but also in a scouting way with other plant health issues.
So if there is a lack of rain or if disease is coming in, you can provide to your clients recommendations on what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the strong point of our platform. So all the weather data and other sources of data we are integrating with our 23 years now of proprietary data, more than 52 parameters and more than 30 algorithms being processed in real time, understanding if the weather is changing, the specific genetic, and you've planted that day and you are using those products. So everything is being considered, more than 50 parameters.
Now, if a farmer here at location X wants to use your services, how do you know what his agronomic history is then?
That's a very good question. We're working in a way that we decompound all the parameters that are responsible for yield, for the yield. And in a way that when you have a farmer in one place like here in Illinois, and they will be using some seed, we have all the data from different seeds. That's why we've been expanding the database from proprietary field trials and greenhouse trials, considering that material, that genetic material, considering the latitude, longitude, and altitude, considering all the parameters from weather, daily, during the night as well, considering the products they are expecting to use. Everything is being considered and is being adapted to understand how those new scenarios will affect the yield and how they need to change things to keep the ball in a higher level.
When you say how they need to change things, what's a typical recommendation would look like that would come into that farmer who's at location X?
Great. So when they are planning, when they are during the winter, they are planning the next season. So they are very open to understand what is the best scenario to be adopted. So they can create side-by-side scenarios considering different genetics, different planting times, different products, doses, those information. So they are not changing, but they are making the best decision. After they plant, they can change things to keep the ball in a higher level. For instance, they can change the timing of sprays. So like a fungicides, mainly, it must be sprayed in a preventive way. So in general, we start in 2022. After 2.5 years of validation here, we realized that farmers are always spraying late, 15, 18 days late. And the point is, some farmers are spraying once or twice fungicides, and even with the same number of sprays, once or twice, even with the same products, not changing the products, we got 0.8 to 3.5 bushels per acre plus, just adjusting what they were doing, not increasing cost or adopting new products, nothing, just adjusting the decisions.
Your services based on number of acres, priced for that? Is that how you calculate things?
Yeah, it's a subscription. So when we started DigiFarms, we had some very important points. One is we are agnostic. So we have no relation with any chemical company. So all the data is from research and is independent. Second, it's very affordable. So the farmers, they have a license per year and an extra per acre that is just to being affordable to all sizes of farmers, and that's it. They are able to use during the whole year, and it's not that much, and it's really providing return over investment.
Alex is a very interesting fellow. He's from Brazil, and his services are available in many countries, not just Brazil and the U.S., but he's international. But we're going to come home to somebody who's local, and that's Mr. Klober. Jack Klober is CEO of Micro MGX. He's got a stable of bacteria which produces chemicals that are toxic to your weeds that herbicides are not killing. He's CEO of Micro MGX.
Well, the micro in our name stands for microbes. So we work with microbes, which are bacteria and fungi. And amazingly, these bacteria and fungi make sometimes 60 different chemicals in doing whatever they do when they're alive. Different chemicals. And most of those, about 95% of those, have never been discovered or seen. So we're in the business of discovering the new ones and finding out which ones are very helpful for us as humans. And we're focused really on the farmers, so solving problems that chemicals can solve for the farmers.
Okay, and tell me what's coming off the ramp here first.
So our first product is a herbicide. We found it, a Pantoia anaenatus bacterium, makes multiple chemicals, and one of them is what we call MGX-1001. That's our first product, and it's naturally made, and so if we want to make more of it, we just ferment it and purify it. It's not that simple, but that's what we do. So it's a very sustainable manufacturing for this. And the big thing about it is it's been tested by 3 of the top 5 companies in the world in crop protection, and all 3 have said this is a new mode of action. Now, there hasn't been a new mode of action for a non-specific herbicide, non-selective herbicide, in 35 years. So we're very excited about that.
Right.
So what is that? Who cares? Well, we care because there's so much herbicide resistance. So by definition, if it hasn't been discovered yet, none of the plants have a resistance to it. So we can go out there and we can kill these weeds with no herbicide resistance. And so the ones that don't, either dicamba or glufosinate or glyphosate, the Roundup, there's a lot of resistance being built up in those. And so we can go in and we've tested those, and we're very successful in the broadleafs that are resistant to the big herbicides.
Now, since you are producing really an organic product from fungi and other microbes, is this going to have all of the regulations that EPA might throw at you?
That's a great question. So, that landscape's changing. Every year, people talk about what it should or should not do. It's basically a chemical. So at some point, they may say you have to do everything that any other chemical has to do for regulation. On the other hand, it is made by a bacterium, and we ferment it, and we don't add anything to it. I mean, it's basically its own herbicide. So we're hoping that some of the regulations that apply to biologicals will also apply to our biochemical,
Okay.
which could cut off years and millions of dollars. We're talking the difference between maybe 200 million versus 2 million for getting registration.
Okay. How soon can farmers see commercials about this and availability in the marketplace?
Yeah, so well, it won't be until probably 2031 or 2032.
Okay.
Sorry,
That's
it's
a
not out
long
there.
way away.
That's right. It seems like a long way, but that's our development. That's what the EPA requires. That's what, I mean, it's just tough to get out there, to get your research permit to do all the research, and then to finally get through EPA registration. And we're trying to do global launch as well, and so it'll be through Europe, which has its own regulatory hurdles.
You said that was product number 1. Is there product number 2 that's not too far back?
Well, we're pretty excited about this one. Product number 2, we just filed the provisional patent. And this one is a anthelmintic. Now, a lot of folks may not know ranchers know what it is. An anthelmintic basically is an anti-worm or a dewormer. So it's for parasites, specifically nematodes. Now, we found activity, again, we found it, a fungi, a fungal strain makes this chemical, and it's very active against these worms. Now, there are really only 3 major classes of dewormers. I'll just call it dewormers. And this one seems to be its own class, but we have a lot of testing still to go. But if that's the case, it's been 30 or more years since they've had a new class, and there is huge resistance. For instance, goats and sheep, somewhere between 80 and 90% of goats and sheep have worms in them that are resistant to the 3 classes. That's huge. Now, this could also work. There's a huge problem with dog hookworm. It's growing tremendously in the last 2 years. There are also millions and millions of people in the world that have parasite problems where the drugs, same category, same classes, these drugs aren't working because they're resistant. So we could be working in humans, in companion pets, and also in livestock. One other way it could work is soybeans are really hampered by cyst nematode, right? And so there's a lot of solutions out there to try to reduce that, but there's nothing out there to get rid of cyst nematode in a field. Once it's in there, it's in there. So if we can have a new class of treatment, maybe a seed treatment, that we can use to attack the cyst nematode, that would be huge as well. So there's 4 different points here that we can use.
How about things like corn rootworm then?
It's very possible, and not nematode. So, we have a lot of testing still to do, but there are really still only 3 classes out there that people are using, whether it's treatment or anything. Even in cyst nematode, there are a lot of, I think there are 200 varieties now that have a trait that allows resistance or tolerance to this cyst nematode. However, that's been over 10 years, and the resistance is really cropping in now. And so the resistance is one thing that we think that our platform is going to give us these natural solutions to resistance. First, resistance to herbicide, and now resistance for the worms and the anthelmintics.
So this product really not only would help a livestock producer, but it's gonna help a soybean grower as well.
Oh, I think so. Right now, they're all completely different markets and completely different formulations, probably. So there's a lot of work and a lot of what ifs and tests we still have to do.
Okay, but have regulators been fairly friendly then to what you're doing?
They're optimistic, but still a lot of work. Still years ahead for getting regulatory approval.
Optimistic, he says, and I think a lot of farmers are certainly hoping that 5 or 6 years away we'll get here very quickly. That's Micro MGX and Jack Klober, and we'll be back with more right after this. Hey, welcome back, and this is a special edition of From the Farm with looking at a lot of startup companies here at the University of Illinois in Research Park, and they were all on the schedule here a few days ago with a lot of introductions of new technology and new science and new business, and that's the next one we want to talk about is Harvest IQ. It's a software company focused on managing revenue risk for farm operations. And the vice president of the company is Eric Barnard.
Yeah, so it's a set of tools for farmers and then brokers, like commodity brokers, crop insurance agents, grain and livestock risk marketing advisors, anyone kind of really focused in the space of how do we turn the crops or the livestock that we've been growing into revenue. And ultimately into hopefully a profit, right? So, you hear the term risk management advisors, risk management solutions a lot, and it sounds kind of nebulous. But at the end of the day, it's about taking, hey, I made these business decisions. I bought a lot of cattle, or I put seed in the ground with the expectation around this is what it was going to cost me, and this is how much I might be able to make by doing that. And so what we want to do is we want to lock that business decision in because you made that with the understanding you could make a profit, right? So we want to make sure that as the markets go up and down, that we have things in place to ensure that we don't lose too much of that and that sometimes maybe we can even take advantage of a little bit of a market going up there. This gets done with risk management solutions. So those are what we kind of categorize into 3 different buckets. So you have in one leg the physical sales. These are the most straightforward. This is I go to an ADM, an Anderson's, a Cargill, a Bunge, and I forward contract so many bushels that I'm going to produce or so many head that I'm going to sell, right? That locks in that price for a future date. Like right now, farmers typically maybe making some sales for December or November, like, a little bit after harvest. And that's a way of mitigating price risk, right? I can pre-sell forward and then avoid any fluctuations that may happen there. The other leg is insurance. So you've probably heard of USDA crop insurance. The sibling to USDA crop insurance on the livestock side is USDA livestock risk protection and livestock gross margin protection. These are subsidized insurance programs to mitigate price risk with livestock. And so Harvest IQ, we have tools that help track those policies that you may purchase and project out what those indemnities might be depending on how the market moves.
Are you providing then a software that a farmer would install on his computer and then put in what he has booked?
Yep.
What he signed up for and all of that, and then it works in a fashion to integrate all this into something at the end of the year?
Exactly. In fact, you don't even have to install it. It's interacted with over the web. So they can pull it up in a web browser, similar like their bank account, or they can pull it up on their phone on our mobile experience. So And then the last piece here is it also integrates with their brokerage accounts for futures and options hedges. So it tracks whether they're if the market goes down, that they maybe those hedges are maybe making money, and if the market goes up, maybe those hedges are keeping a price floor locked in.
All right, so that's already pulling in what the market is doing.
Exactly. Yes, we have worked with the CME to get access to their data and ensure that these producers are able to see their entire portfolio of their crops and livestock mark to market with either depending on what the producer wants, we can do live real-time data if we get everything licensed in place, or we can use 10-minute delayed or even after midnight data, depending on what the producer cares to see.
And the producer at the end, all he has to do is make any necessary decisions.
Yeah, we don't automate the decision making, but we do make sure that the information then that you're making a decision on is accurate. And most often you're sharing that with an advisor or a business partner in the farm, and you want to make sure everybody's looking at the same information. And so if one person's making a decision thinking that they've only got 20,000 bushels sold, and another person's making decisions and they think they got 100,000 sold, that's a problem. So we've been seeking to eliminate that.
I'll bet some bankers would like to be on that same account.
Yeah, we have some banks that are using the software to try to just understand the portfolio. You get around to the time of year where lines of credit and different loans need to be evaluated and renewed. They really like having a report to understand what the marketing positions look like.
We're going to be feeding some microbes to bolster your crops right after this. We certainly know that an important part of growing a good crop is having those little guys taking nutrients in the soil and feeding those hair roots around corn and soybeans. And if they're happy and they're not asleep, they're going to do very well. So we got to wake them up, and that's what Phycoterra does.
So Phycoterra is a non-living, carbon-based superior food source for the biology in your soil, around your seed, and on your plants.
A food source for the soil.
Yes, for the microbes in your soil, the bacteria and fungi.
All right.
Yes.
Do they need to be fed? There's a lot of them there that kind of seem to stay year after year.
You're exactly right. In just a single teaspoon of soil, you have over 1 billion bacteria and over 1 million fungi. The challenge that we have is about 75% of those are dormant. They're dormant because they don't have a good food source. When they don't have a good food source, they go into dormancy. Think about a hibernating bear, right? You basically have a hibernating microbe in your soil waiting to be fed. Once we feed that microbe, we see the explosion of activity, that feeding that occurs, that allows nutrients to be available to the plant, increasing yield, and also helping abiotic stress with our foliar application.
I'm assuming all these little guys are good guys.
Well, they're not all good guys. There are some bad bacteria and fungi in there as well, but we predominantly feed the good ones.
Okay. And so why do they need to be fed? Is it just boosting yield for that eventual crop?
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons, nutrient availability. So our nutrients are tied up in those soils, and this is allowing Mother Nature to do what she was intended to do. These bacteria and fungi had very specific tasks to help the crop. Unfortunately, they're not able to do that when they're in dormancy. We're waking up those microbes and allowing them to do the work that they were intended to do.
Okay. Now you have a product that you're applying that the farmers
Yep.
apply.
This is our product is, it is a water solution-based product, okay? It's a liquid product. We have a soil amendment, which is our primary product, that can be applied in furrow, 2x2, broadcast, wide drop, or side dress. We have a seed treatment product that typically if whoever treats your seed, you would just go to them, they would add it to their blend, and they put it on there at about 2 ounces. So very low use rate products that we have. Our soil amendment is 1 quart per acre. And then our foliar product is only 8 ounces per acre, and we typically just throw it in with your fungicide pass.
All right, if I'm applying a foliar product, how does it get down to the soil?
So in that case, that mode of action is actually different. It's not really impacting the soil. It's feeding that, what we call the phytosphere. The phytosphere is where that leaf surface meets the atmosphere. And you basically have a food desert there. There's just no food available. There's food in the soil, but on the leaf surface, unless something's blowing it in or there's rain, there's no food for those microbes to eat. We feed that plant surface. So in that case, it's more about abiotic stress management than it is necessarily about soil health.
Okay, all right. But a seed treatment, they'll get just you said 2 ounces per.
Seed treatment, yep, 2 ounces, and that's just around the seed. So that's coated on the seed. That helps with germination. It helps with early stand establishment. More importantly, even stand establishment, and then a very fibrous root system is really what it's impacting.
All right, now, do typical ag retailers have your product? Is it available if a farmer says, I want some of this?
So today, most of our sales have been direct to the farm. We're on about 2 million acres here in the U.S., but we are now having those conversations with retail partners trying to bring distribution on board. So we are very interested in talking to retail and having them partner with us to help deliver this product to farmers.
Okay. Is there a charge per acre then? Is the farmer buying it on a per acre basis?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. On average, I would say that the soil amendment runs about $10 an acre, and the foliar application runs about $5 an acre. The seed treatment's about $2.
We appreciate Sales Manager Matt Kirkpatrick of Phycoterra joining us. Now, somebody who has been around University of Illinois campus for many years researching soybeans is Ken Page, and many of you may know him. He's developed something very new that is really going to create a lot of interest because it really boosts soybean yields. He's got a company and a product called Frenzy.
Frenzy's really, at its heart, it's actually a molecular genetic response. And what it does is it upregulates all gene pathways. And the reason it does that is because it increases chromosome number per cell. And so with increased chromosome numbers, you get increased gene expression and through all these pathways, which ends up giving you bigger biomass, both above and below ground, increased yield, which is ultimately what we're after here. And it permeates a number of other pathways that are also of benefit to soybean, like pest resistance goes up in the plant. Nodulation in soybean increases, so you're getting more nitrogen inputs back into the plant itself and potentially leaking back into the soil, which would decrease the need for adding so much nitrogen into your fields. Other things are drought tolerance, which is timely.
told farmers here a lot of things that they want to know. Well, do I spray this on my crop? What do I do? How do I get this,
Yeah.
my soybeans to do this?
Yeah, so we have a priority spray for it. So we're selecting the right seed because not all soybeans will increase yield. The spray chemistry will remove that apical meristem, that dominance of the plant, and cause the branching. So
Okay, that part of the growth part of the soybean.
Yeah.
Now, I can remember cutting weeds out of the bean 60 years ago, and after a hailstorm, we had some damage, and all of a sudden, the beans just got explosive in their growth, and they probably end up better yielding because of that hailstorm.
Yeah.
Are you doing the same thing?
yeah, essentially I'm doing the same stress response that hail damage would do. Yeah.
So it's that little apical meristem at the top of the soybean plant that's the key to the success of what you're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what we target to remove that. Yeah,
Okay, and then all of a sudden, we get more branching, we get more yield, we get more nodulation, and we get a bigger check at the end of the year.
yeah, that's correct. Absolutely, yeah. Our goal is to put more money into the farmers' pockets, put more money into the seed companies, and more money in our pockets.
very honest response from Ken Page, and watch for Frenzy to get on the market. We've got something very special coming up just in a moment, kind of a preview of another show that we're going to be doing. Stay with us. Well, for the past few minutes, we've been talking about ag research. We want to shift just a moment to give you a preview on ag education because there's a lot of changes that are going to be coming. It's going to go all the way from Chicago through central Illinois to East St. Louis, and it's changing ag education, not just from shop class in high school, but all the way down into elementary schools. And the kids are eating it up. And the leader of the pack here is Vice Chancellor Kim Kidwell. She's a former dean of College of Aces, and Kim was really outlining what this whole concept is, and she does that for you now.
We've got people from a whole bunch of places. What have you done here?
Oh, I'm glad you noticed. We have people from, north, middle, and south in the state of Illinois. We created a collaborative to train teachers from 3 different cities in Illinois to use food as the context for delivering, essentially any subject matter in their classrooms. And so it's a really interesting collaborative that kind of got sparked by a connection I have with Eli's Cheesecake up in Chicago. Mark Schulman is a good buddy of mine, and I've been working with him in the food space up in Chicago for a while, and he was telling me about this nonprofit called Pilot Light that was founded by Michelin chefs in Chicago. So the short story is they got pretty excited about Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, and they started to talk about, well, we're chefs, we can probably contribute to this story in a meaningful way, trying to teach kids about nutrition and healthy eating and food and things like that. So they established this nonprofit called Pilot Light, and they developed a curriculum around food and took an approach to train teachers how to use that curriculum in the classroom to get kids excited about different subjects using food as the example. Like you can teach chemistry using food as an example, math using food as an example, history is using food as examples. And what happened was kind of a weird elevation of interest from students in the content of the course, and teachers feeding off that enthusiasm from their students to get excited about what they do. They also do other types of programming around snacks in lunchrooms. They have a Snack Explorers program that teaches kids how to make healthy choices around snacks and things like that. But it was kind of an interesting aha for me, thinking about we wait so long to introduce young people to careers in food, agriculture, and nutrition. Can we do it earlier, and can teachers help us tell that story? So when I told Robert Jones, our chancellor, about this, he said, "Oh, you're going after the teachers this time, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Good idea, right?" So I talked to the folks at Pilot Light, and we got excited about potentially developing a coalition of folks that could help us do this. So Lieutenant Governor Stratton's been involved, and ISBE's involved, and we've got Chicago High School for Ag Sciences involved. And then I went to my buddies down in East St. Louis and said, "Hey, can we do a cohort down here, because we do the Jackie Joyner Kersey Food Ag Nutrition Innovation Center project down there." I came to Zach Shield here because he's done a phenomenal job of introducing agriculture into the Decatur context. And then Pilot Light was very well established in Chicago already, so they work their networks there. And so we have 3 different entities funding these projects. So East St. Louis is funded by a company, Decatur is funded by a private donor, and then a nonprofit is funding the Chicago cohort. So we brought them together after a year being in the program today to kind of debrief what happened, make some adjustments for where we go in this next year, and get some feedback about what the impact of the approach in their classrooms has been.
When this is all done, are we going to integrate schools across the state of Illinois with food being a common denominator in their educational classes?
I hope so. That would be the goal. right, for this to go viral across the state of Illinois and maybe even across the country. So we have Amy Lehman from University of Illinois doing the assessment work because we have to prove the concept is effective. And so, you know, there's always the, oh, this was great and I love it. Then there's demonstrating that people are making different decisions around food and really food, nutrition, and well-being in a positive way. And I think the teachers, we've seen some unbelievable impacts. You know, one of my favorite stories, we've done this embryology piece where, you know, they're hatching chickens in the classroom. How much love these kids have for these chickens kind of phenomenal, which has been happening for decades. Like, we've used this example a lot, but these are kids in inner city Chicago, right? These are kids in East St. Louis that are doing these kinds of things. These are kids in Decatur doing these kinds of things that are connecting the ecosystem around food to animals to well-being. It's really powerful.
And that can go a long way in their life. And at that point, some of them are going to say, well, gee, I could go raise chickens for a profession. Or they're going to train their kids what I learned in school about chickens in 5th grade.
Yeah, exactly. I think linking any content to agriculture and food, it's easier than you think, right? It's kind of shocking how easy, especially around history and sociology, when you think about even the historical presence of food in a family, like your favorite dishes that your mom made that you've passed on for generations, those kinds of things. There's a lineage in food that really does connect us all, and that's what Lieutenant Governor Stratton says a lot, food connects us all. Well, we're trying to create a vehicle that's well received and familiar with people to get people excited about education. So there's the content that they're learning in the classroom, and then there's the linkage of that content to career pathways, to get young people excited about thinking about careers in food, agricultural aligned disciplines when they're in that K through 8 space. So this is kind of a program that's intended to be a feeder into 4-H and FFA, instead of waiting until they get in high school, where frankly most of them have really kind of honed into what they want to do anyway. It happens awfully early, to create a pathway to expand their opportunities so they're more like, oh, I know what 4-H is, I know what FFA is, I know what biotechnology is, I know what animal science is, I know what nutrition is. So there's some familiarity, like, oh, this is what this is how it impacts my life, and this is something I want to contribute to as a career pathway. So we're trying to connect those dots to get more interest across earlier grade span with kids in food, agriculture, and nutrition.
Now, in your former position as Dean of the College of ACES, does any of this connect back to ACES now, or will there be some linkage with the folks in ACES and the students that they teach to integrate into all of this?
Absolutely. You know, there are no accidents, right? We're connecting the dots on purpose here. So Extension and 4-H are involved in this project. So we've had a desire to connect what's happening in school with after-school programming. 4-H does that really well. So they've been involved in East St. Louis and trying to bring those pieces together and weave them together. The assessment person is also a faculty member in ALEC in ACES, very intentional. You know, she's in the program where they teach ag ed, right? So she knows what that feeder system looks like, and I think that assessment piece coming from her is validating in a lot of ways. All the ag teachers in the state actually know her, and she was in Extension before she went into ACES. So the team is set up very intentionally, and we're excited about that because I think it validates an approach where, you know, for many, many years, like I've been working in this field for 30 years, I don't know if we've moved the dial very much on getting new people into agriculture. Like, it's been slow but steady. How do we expand that in a meaningful way? This is one way to do it. And what we're seeing, you know, when you talk to these teachers, very few of whom have had any exposure to agriculture, and you talk to them about what they're doing and how they're doing it, they're learning so much too, and they're the nurturers of the change agents, right? So the consistency with which they'll deliver that curriculum in their classrooms year after year after year, creating a cohort effect in their school so there's more than one person that's actually doing that and they're connecting those dots for kids, it's the way you change the mindset of a generation, and that's what we really hope to do.
What have I not asked that's important to you for this conversation and what you see as the future of the program?
Well, I'll tell you, I think how do you get something like this to go viral, right? Because we talk about that a lot. So we're talking about, approaching state legislature, we're talking about writing grants, we're talking about different ways to get people to understand that you can train a teacher in any school district, in any county, in any part of the state of Illinois, and have this approach used in your classrooms. It can be done in inner city Chicago, it can be done in rural Illinois, it can be done in any state, it can be done in any country, right? So the approach of helping teachers be more effective in the classroom was something that's relevant to all of us, that kids can go home and talk to their parents about, where people can see the connection between education and the power of that understanding to improving life. The potential for that to go viral is real. Like, this is something that any senator in the state of Illinois could sit with me and say, I want this in my district. And we can say, this is what it's going to take to make it happen. So I think, this is one of the things that I've seen in my career, that scaling is actually feasible and cost effective. Pilot Light does a great job of doing this at a very nominal fee, but the important piece has been we put teachers on stipends and we give them money to buy supplies to execute these things in their classroom. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but that investment is priceless in the impact. So it's scalable, and I'm excited about where it might go, especially when we demonstrate that it works.
We appreciate the visit with Vice Chancellor Kim Kidwell. And for farmers who are watching, if you didn't realize it, here's an opportunity for you to either adopt a classroom before the classroom adopts you. We appreciate you stopping by and watching our hour-long edition From the Farm today. I'm Stu Ellis.